Tell you more about the G7 summit. Prime Minister Modi held talks with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney on the sidelines of the crucial summit, marking a significant step in efforts to reset the ties between the two countries after a period of diplomatic strain. The discussions focused on strengthening the ties, advancing trade negotiation, with both the countries expressing optimism about concluding a long-pending trade agreement, and a visit by the Prime Minister to Canada later this year. Have a look at this ground report.
So Prime Minister Modi's had bilateral meetings with the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. Remember, India and Canada have been negotiating for a comprehensive economic partnership agreement. Both Canada and India have had troubles with their largest trading partner, which is the United States of America. Canada, too, on the issue of steel and coal, has had running issues with Donald Trump and his tariffs. Canada, much like India, has also not thrashed out a major trade deal with the United States. As far as India is concerned, that interim trade agreement is still very much elusive. Jameson Greer, who is the U.S. trade representative, is expected to travel to India next week. So clearly, Canada and India have a joint interest, if you will, in coming together and ensuring that they fast-track this SEPA, or the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. Of course, the value of trade between India and Canada is not as much as between India and the United States. It's a fraction. But I think given what the Trump tariffs, the manner in which it's upended the global trading order, it's only natural that India and Canada and other middle powers, that's the phrase that Mark Carney had used in his famous Davos speech earlier this year, where he said that middle powers need to come together to try and, diversify the risks involved with the upending of the global trading order. So that, I think, is a critical issue that was discussed between the two prime ministers. Prime Minister Modi also met with the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and again, the contrast here is interesting because one of the first FTAs that India has had with a Western power is with Britain. The FTA was signed again sometime last year. So it's going to be close to a year. It's going to come up on a year since the India-UK FTA has been signed. And again, this is a good example because remember, the reason why Britain got into these FTAs with other individual countries like India, for example, is because they pulled out of the European Union in the form of Brexit back in 2016. And even with India, the trade agreement had been negotiated for a number of years. Multiple prime ministers had changed in Britain. It started under Boris Johnson and then subsequently Rishi Sunak, and then eventually it was last year under Keir Starmer that the FTA was signed. But now that the FTA is signed, both leaders got an opportunity to take stock of the progress of this FTA and also how to action their vision for 2030. That's the India-UK trade roadmap that both leaders have laid out for India and the UK. So clearly, in the meetings that Prime Minister has had, the individual separate bilateral meetings with both Mark Carney of Canada and Keir Starmer of the UK, trade was very much front and center of these parleys.
And with this, a very short break. More news and updates on the other side.